Well, let's go ahead and get started and do a settling in meditation. I know others are trying to log on, so we may have more people join us. So sitting up, comfortable position, whatever position is comfortable for you. And taking a couple of deep breaths, pull your attention inward. Exhaling and letting go of the day. Letting your body settle into your sitting position, whether you're in a chair or on the floor. Feeling yourself supported in your seat. Letting your body settle in. Feeling your feet on the floor. Maybe your legs on the cushion if you're sitting. Your seat in the chair. And just noticing those contact points. Keeping your belly soft and your shoulders down. Loosen your jaw muscle. And letting your arms be heavy in your lap or on your side. Just letting everything go. Letting your body feel very heavy. And feeling your body just settled. Letting the day roll off your shoulders. Some of us didn't have to work today and others did. And sometimes we bring that with us when we sit. So intentionally checking your body, noting any areas that are tight, and breathing into those areas, relaxing them. Just letting the day roll off. This is your time. Just you and your breath, relaxing, settling in. And paying attention to the feeling tones in the body, noticing any sensations. There may be some tightness or some tingling. You may feel a pulse. Just noticing the sensation and moving on, not getting stuck on the sensation. And then bringing your attention to your breath and just staying with the in-breath for the entire breath in and following the out-breath, the entire breath out. Notice the natural rhythm as your body just breathes naturally. And as the thoughts come into your mind, just come back to your body and your breath, letting go of the thought. And now check in with your thoughts. Where has your mind gone? Are you still concentrating on the body and the breath? Or did your mind wander off into a story? And without having any judgment about it, if that's the case, then just bringing your mind gently back, doing a body scan, seeing if there's any areas that can just relax a bit more. And then focusing on the rhythm of the breath as your body naturally breathes in and out. So for the past few weeks, we have been talking about the Four Foundations of Mindfulness. And the first foundation, just to do a little review, the first foundation of mindfulness is mindfulness of the body. And when we're practicing our awareness of the body or contemplation of the body, we can begin with the breath, which is, portable. It's right there all the time. And bringing our attention to that is training our mind to stay focused, stay pinpointed on something other than our thoughts that randomly come in and out of our mind. And also when we're breathing and thinking about our breath, we're also in touch with our body sensations. What is happening with our body? Do we have any tightness anywhere? Can we breathe a little deeper into any area that needs a little bit more relaxation? And then the second foundation of mindfulness is the feeling tones, mindfulness of feeling. And when we're talking about that, we're talking about the physical sensations. We're talking about whether something might be pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. So if we're feeling some discomfort in our legs, maybe our knees bothering us or something, we can just notice it and then breathe into that area and try to loosen that up. And if that doesn't help, we can always focus on an area of our body that isn't in pain or discomfort, which does help, but also reminding ourselves that everything is impermanent. If we're having a pain or discomfort, it's impermanent. It will not last forever. Now, I know there's some people that have chronic pain, and I'm just talking about regular old bumps and scrapes and bruises. And the chronic pain is more difficult to deal with. Chronic pain can be dealt with the second way I suggested, just practicing relaxing that area and focusing on an area that is not in pain, is not in discomfort. And that really does help shift the mind, because our mind can really focus on something that's uncomfortable. So reminding ourselves that it's impermanent is a big part of that. And the third foundation of mindfulness is mindfulness of the mind. And we kind of went over that a little bit last week. And I'm going to review that a little bit. And so the mind is a thought machine, right? That's what we were talking about last week. It's a thought machine that never really stops thinking. The day, if we've had a busy day, we're probably going to have a busy thought meditation. And that's not unusual. It's nothing, we're not doing it wrong, which is something we often say. It's just one of those noisy meditations. And so to kind of sit and watch the thoughts go by without getting caught in their stories, just noticing what kinds of thoughts you're having and naming them: thinking mind, the planning mind, the judging mind, whatever it is. And when we identify something, it tends to kind of detach itself from us a little bit. We're not taking everything so personally. We're not so personally involved with our thoughts. So the mind creates stories around the thoughts that we have. Let's say you're sitting, following your breath in and out, and now a thought comes in. And let's say you get caught in that thought, in that story. And now our mind is creating a story that, may not be true. Something may not have even happened, but our mind will put a story around it. And then we catch that and go, oh, okay, I'm getting caught up in my story. And then often the judging mind will jump in and say, you're not doing this right, or you can't meditate. And actually, it's all part of meditation. The story is part of meditation, just recognizing it when it happens, kind of laughing at it a little bit, chuckling it off, and coming back to your breath and beginning again, just beginning again and again. And eventually, with this practice, letting go of the thoughts and returning to the breath, our mindfulness practice gets stronger and stronger and easier to do. We have less thoughts that invade us. So, as the Buddha said, when awareness is well established, the stories begin to fall away. My English version of the suttas. And what he would call, and what many of us call, the effortless effort, becomes so natural after a while that we really don't even make the effort. We just notice, oh, okay, our mind has wandered off and we've gotten caught in a story. I'll come back to my breath. And that's all there is to it. We don't have to judge ourselves. We don't have to criticize. It's just become a habit. And eventually this becomes such a natural habit that we begin to clearly start understanding what's meant by abiding independently. We're not depending on our thoughts. We don't need to be caught in those stories. And we can simply think of the things that we're hearing or thinking or tasting or whatever is all part of just that part of life. It's not me or I. It's not my hearing. It's not my noise. It's not my thought. It's just thoughts. It's just stuff that happens. So rather than thinking I am thinking or I am meditating or I am hearing the sound, we realize what's called bare knowing. And as Joseph Goldstein puts it, this understanding of whatever is seen, heard, felt, or cognized, we're not evaluating or proliferating different sense impressions. When we practice in this way, we live abiding independent, not clinging to anything in the world. So I think that's kind of our goal, and we're going, wow, I sure need to meditate. My mind is just going crazy. I've had a rough day. We're really caught in those thoughts. We're really clinging to those thoughts. So to learn how to do this and finally get to those points where we can say, yes, I am abiding independently, not clinging to anything in this world. That's a good feeling when you find that you've had 5 minutes of silence or 10 minutes of silence, even better. But ultimately, there is no good or bad in meditation. Everything just is. It just is. I have a great story, and I know I've told this story before, but I think it's really fitting right here. We're talking about good or bad. A farmer has a horse for many years. It helps him earn his livelihood and raise his son. One day, the horse runs away. His neighbor says sympathetically, "Such bad luck." And the farmer replies, "Maybe. Who knows?" The next day, the horse makes it back, and he brings with him another horse. And the neighbor smiles and says, "Such good luck." And the farmer replies, "Maybe. Who knows?" The following day, the farmer's son rides the new horse and tries to tame it. And in the process, he breaks his leg. The neighbor says sympathetically, "Such bad luck." And the farmer replies, "Maybe. Who knows?" On the last day of this story, the military comes to the village to draft all able-bodied young men to fight in war. And the son is exempt from the draft due to his broken leg. And you can guess what the neighbor said and how the farmer replied. So we don't really need to believe our stories, our mind stories. We don't need to decide if something is good or bad. Our thoughts are just thoughts. And as Pema Chodron teaches, you are the sky, everything else is just the weather. So we're walking through our life, we're just doing our thing, and stuff happens. That's the weather. That's just the weather. Sometimes the weather's sunny and lovely, and sometimes there's hailstones coming down. But it's just all part of life. We don't really need to label it bad or good. It just is. So when we're working with contemplation of the mind, we really need to remember that our mind, if we're contemplating something, trying to figure something out, the mind is a really wonderful tool. It helps us think, it helps us figure things out, it helps us do directions, it helps us do a lot of very useful things. And the rest of the time, it's just constantly talking. Not really saying anything substantial. Sometimes it's just kind of making up stories as we go along. So we don't need to take everything we think too seriously. It's just thoughts. And the other part of the mind is perspective. Perspective is a tricky thing. I look at people arguing in politics, and I wonder, what is it that one person sees that the other person doesn't see? Because if both people are so adamant about their opinion, they must have different perceptions. And I wonder, if we could trade places, would we understand? Oh, that's how they're seeing it. No wonder they're saying that. Just perceptions. The best example of a perception that I can think of is if you're at the ocean and you're standing on the beach and you're looking out at the water and a wave comes, you're looking at the face of the water. So it can be really big, right? There's this big wave coming at you, and you see it stretching down on both sides. But if you're standing on the cliff watching the waves go past you, it just looks like a line going by. So this person could say the waves look like a line, and the other person on the beach can say, no, they don't. They're huge. They're like a big wall coming at you. So they're both right. It's perspective. Depends on how you see things. So I'm going to do a meditation now, and I know that we kind of did this last week, but it's a good practice. So during this meditation, I'd really like you to remain open to any of your feeling tones, any of the thoughts that come up, and ask yourself, is it pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? And remind yourself it's impermanent. And if you find you got caught up in a story, don't worry about it. Just come back to your breath, come back to your body, and practice training your mind to let go. Sometimes labeling a thought, thinking, or planning, or judging is a really good thing to do, because then we're noticing what kinds of thoughts we're having. And we don't need to have an opinion about it. It's just education, just noticing what's going on. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Sitting up comfortably, whatever is comfortable for you. And gently closing your eyes or softening your gaze. Sometimes if we begin to fall asleep, we can just open the eyes and soften the gaze. And that helps tremendously. And bringing our attention inward to our body. Just doing a scan to see if there's any areas that we need to adjust for more comfort. Relax a bit more, keeping the belly soft and the shoulders down and the jaw muscle is loose. Taking a couple of deep breaths and exhaling and releasing any tension or stress in the body. And again, just touching into any physical sensations that you notice. You might notice the contact points of your feet on the floor or your seat in the chair or the cushion. What are those sensations? Maybe there's a temperature difference. Or maybe the floor is solid or the pillow is softer. Just noticing all of the physical sensations of just sitting. If you notice any discomfort, just remind yourself that it's impermanent. And breathing into that area, relaxing it a bit more. And then maybe shifting your attention to an area that is feeling good, no discomfort. And then shifting our attention to the body breathing naturally, following the entire breath in, noticing the sensation in your nostrils, back of your throat, body expanding as the in-breath fills your lungs, and contracting as you exhale. And then you might notice the difference in temperature of the breath when you exhale, much warmer on your upper lip. And there's a pause between the in-breath and the out-breath and the in-breath. Sometimes one pause is longer than the other. It's interesting to just observe and notice that. And now see if you can remain with your attention focused on your body breathing. Just observing the entire body breathing on its own. And being aware of all of the sensations. And now to be a little more intentional with our meditation, you can breathe in and say to yourself, breathing in, I'm aware that I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I'm aware that I'm breathing out. And noticing what kinds of thoughts are entering your mind and labeling them. The planning mind, the thinking mind, getting caught in a story, and then coming back to the breath and the body, letting the thought go by. And then checking in again with the feeling tones, noticing if there's any sensation of desire or aversion. Sometimes we don't like discomfort and we have an aversion toward it. Or sometimes our mind will wander to what are we having for dessert? And there's that desire. You're just noticing what kind of thoughts come into your mind. And then coming back to the breath, observing the body breathing, aware of all the sensations, naming the thoughts over and over again. So noticing where your mind may have drifted off to, gently bringing yourself back to your breath. Maybe doing a body scan and seeing if any areas have tightened up. And taking a breath and exhaling and relaxing those areas. It's very easy to get drawn into the stories and then go back to them. Maybe we feel we haven't finished that thought yet. But the thought will still be there later on. Right now, this is our time. Our time to just be with our breath, relaxing, no problems to tackle, nothing to work out. Just being quiet and peaceful and calm.